Anesthesiology. This really gives us an opportunity to celebrate Jeff and his work. He's really been such a pioneer, a prolific researcher, an entrepreneur. He starts companies. He came out of the Langer lab. Dr. Langer is here, and we've had a number of Langer trainees here. They're never boring, that's for sure. Jeff has really tackled a lot of very tough medical problems. He's worked on things like cancer, Crohn's disease, HIV, hearing loss, and he's made a really tremendous impact on all of these things. He really does embody the spirit that really makes the Brigham what it is. I've been here for a long time, and we don't get a lot of people like Jeff, but when we do, we really celebrate them, and that's why these events are really so special to all of us. So Jeff, we're really honored to have you, your wife Jessica, your kids Jordan and Joshua. I just talked to them, learned about Brookline High School and the quarterback, and going to the University of Pittsburgh next year. So exciting. Just amazing to have you guys here. This is a big deal. Your dad really did something fantastic. The Brigham Endowed Chair is really the highest honor that we bestow on any scientist or clinician in our organization. It recognizes exceptional achievement and paves the way for continued excellence in patient care and research, all the things that we do in this hospital. We expect that Jeff will be here, we hope that he'll be here for many, many years, making many, many more discoveries. So again, Jeff, congratulations for this really most well-deserved recognition. Now, I'm also thrilled to share the podium tonight with a terrific group of speakers, and they will offer reflections on various aspects of Jeff's career, his transformative work as a researcher, an entrepreneur, a mentor, the importance of this chair in advancing anesthesiology at the Brigham. And at this point, I'd like to invite my friend and colleague, Dr. James Rathmel, to the podium. Jim not only leads our Department of Anesthesiology and Perioperative and Pain Medicine, but he's also the Leroy Van Dam Professor of Anesthesia at HMS. Jim, thanks for joining us.
All right, Paul, thanks very much for kicking things off this afternoon and serving as the host. And Jeff, this is an honor to you and your extraordinary accomplishments. So I also want to thank John Hannigan and the entire development team for putting the event together. Thanks very much for all you've done for us. So Jeff, congratulations. You are indeed a trailblazing innovator who's working nonstop to solve the very real problems faced by clinicians and their patients every day. I want to start with just a little bit, a glimpse into your method, maybe your madness, I don't know, from direct observation. You're one of those keenly curious people who just keeps asking why and trying to understand more in depth of what the problem is. Understand the pain points, I think you've described them to me in the past. And you just have a unique ability to look around and see the problems that can be addressed, that you know that we have solutions on hand for. You bring that knowledge of material science, a deep understanding of science, to real problems that are clinically relevant. Now, during the pandemic, you'll recall our clinicians, we were suddenly right there on the front lines in the ICUs and the operating rooms. And it was really common for us to be exposed every day to what everyone came to know as aerosol generating procedures, right? The infectious disease people knew that. We didn't know a lot about it, even as anesthesiologists. These are procedures like endotracheal intubation, and they carry the highest risk of transmissions of diseases that are spread by aerosolization, like COVID-19. And we knew that certain types of masks were protective, like the N95 respirator, but we were also short on supplies for our frontline clinicians, and we were using the same mask every day in the ICUs. So that our clinicians were out there, they had a mask, they would put it in a little box that's like made for a sandwich, and put it on a shelf with their name on it, and come back the next day, use the same mask that they'd used to carry for N95 or for COVID-19 positive patients, known positive patients the day before. We just didn't have enough. It was insane at some level. And so you know that You were right amongst that group of scientists that we brought together early on. Remember those telephone conversations? And included Bob. Bob was a part of a lot of those conversations. And what happened is you connected us with a lot of different people. And Bob, you connected us with the folks at New Balance. And we were all thinking about this idea of rapidly developing a new mask and putting it onto the production lines that were laying fallow at New Balance. They said, we're here, we got lots of people, we've got lots of equipment, we just need to know how to design it. But our idea was to build a mask. We didn't do that, but the New Balance team did help us replace a whole tractor trailer load of tens of thousands of N95 masks that had been stockpiled down in Pennsylvania in preparation for an Ebola outbreak, but have sat there kind of in the heat, and the elastic straps degrade. And the folks at New Balance, in essentially 48 hours, put tens of thousands of new straps on, and we had them here in clinical use within just a couple of days, vastly increasing our supply. It was a real win. Now, I know that you went on to develop a couple of innovations, and one of those was a form-fitting mask that carried a lot of the filtration characteristics. So you became an expert with lots of people around you on how do we test these masks, and how do we generate these little particles and make sure they don't get through the fabric, and eventually developed the form-fitting N95 essentially. It wasn't exactly the same because of the regulatory aspects of it. You also developed this. I don't know if anybody's seen this at the drugstore. It's called Profi. This is my little sample that was brought along just as it was on the market. I mean, this is amazing. This is a relative of a very commonly used cosmetic. So we know it's safe to use on surfaces and mucous membranes. And Jeff took that substance, put it into a nasal spray, coats the nasal mucosa, and it decreases the absorption of many different viruses dramatically. So the fact that you just don't pick up the virus the way it usually enters into your system was something that you and your team brought to fruition within a very short period of time. And that's the kind of thinking. So it's not a surprise at all that your innovation goes beyond the lab. I know that just a few months ago you published a new book. It's called LIT. LIT. Life Ignition Tools. Okay? So in it you share your own difficult journey and very personal journey with struggling to succeed in education, which is just astounding for a full professor at Harvard and someone who runs an enormously successful laboratory. But you share that and how you became an inspirational entrepreneur and a scientist. You are quite inspirational. You give readers something of a playbook on how to gain that inspiration, seek that inspiration, and then tap the full power of your own talents. And I enormously enjoyed reading it. I was in Brisbane yesterday, just 24 hours ago, on my flight back. I read LIT. So I'm going to leave it at that. A little suspense for all of you in the air to encourage you to read this new book that Jeff just published and try your new approach on For Size. So to make it a little easier, we're going to have a sign up as you go out. If any of you are interested in this book, we will purchase and send the book directly to your home address. I'd love for you all to have that. And to me, that says I would love for everybody to be able to experience this as well. So please sign up on your way out, and we will get the book to you in short order. So we're going to hear plenty more about Jeff from a terrific group of speakers that are going to follow. I want to share a word about the importance of basic scientists like Jeff and the laboratories they run in a clinical department like the Department of Anesthesiology, right? We are 95% clinicians on the front line delivering anesthesia to patients who need operating room types of surgery, out of operating room procedures, care in the ICUs, and chronic pain management in the clinics. That's what we do largely. So what does a basic scientist add to our armamentarium? But when we first met, you were already a full professor. You were in the Department of Medicine. And Omid Farrokhzad, an anesthesiologist in the department, and another innovative materials scientist who trained in the Langer lab at MIT, by the way. He was just assembling the Center for Nanomedicine here in the Hale building. And somehow he convinced you to move, I think you were in Lansdowne, were you over in Lansdowne Street in Cambridge, to this new Hale building and to join his new center. And you came and started. I didn't hear much. We didn't know each other much at that point in time. I knew you were here. We'd met at, I think, a couple of development things. We're sitting at the same table. We learned a little bit more. And then within a year or two, you were busy with new ideas. And I think most importantly, you were busy mentoring young new scientists. You were developing that new talent. And Nitin Joshi and Yuhan Lee are young scientists that had been enormously productive in your lab as postdoctoral fellows, and you were looking for a home here on the Brigham faculty. And you were struggling to find that. And that's what brought us together, was a discussion of not about me and my laboratory and what can I gain, but how can I develop a home for these young scientists, keep them here because they're gonna go. They're gonna go within months, maybe a year at the most. I think you were thinking, maybe we're holding it hostage, I don't know. I don't think so. I think he was very sincere in that. And so it was that selfless approach to building the careers of others that brought us together. And that's also the enormous value that you bring to our Department of Anesthesiology that we've only just started to tap. Your willingness to partner to solve real-world problems with clinicians and mentor them in their own careers is what's most important. And the most recent additions are also here tonight. Lauren Levy's there in the second row. He's a very, very accomplished scientist from industry who's come back and kind of taken up entry-level assistant professor of anesthesiology, has way more than enough to be associate, perhaps even approaching full professor in his accomplishments, and he's already got a new grant to investigate drug delivery systems. And then Christoph Nabzik's the newest addition to your lab, standing back there at the table. Christoph came to us from Mayo Clinic. He is a material scientist in his own right, and he's developing new adhesives that seal tissues like the liver that are very difficult to seal without invoking the blood clotting system, actually just seal it, and he's already commercializing those and is a member of now the Karp laboratory as well. The mission of our department is to train the next generation of leaders, innovative leaders in anesthesiology, and you're a key part of that. Getting clinicians to come through the lab and understand what we can add that'll change the lives of patients is what's most important in a department like this, not just delivering clinical care. All right, so congratulations on the new endowed position, indeed the highest honor, and I'm just delighted to offer this to you and confer it on you. And I look forward to seeing many amazing innovations that come out of your lab in the years ahead. So now I'd like to introduce our next speaker, Professor Bob Langer. Dr. Langer is one of 9 institute professors at MIT, and that is the highest honor that can be awarded to a faculty member. Pretty extraordinary. He's written more than 1,600 articles, 1,600. Okay, I'm like at 150. And I feel pretty good about that. He also has over 1,500 issued and pending patents worldwide. 1,500, that's extraordinary. He is the most cited engineer in history. The most cited engineer in history, and that's just extraordinary. He is really an extraordinary individual. So Bob, thank you for coming. If I were to describe you as a busy man, I think that would not even start to do justice to your blistering schedule. Now, having you here for this event, it's an enormous honor for the department and for the Brigham, where the long reach of your mentorship is felt by so many people here. I don't know if you remember, but I first met you in Washington, D.C. It was at the celebration after you received the National Medal of Science from George W. Bush at the White House in 2006. I sat at your dinner table. Do you remember that? Not because of me. It was me and George. My mother, Nita Fedorov, received the same honor that night, so you were on the podium together. And I didn't really know what you did at that point in time. I didn't know who you were. I didn't know the enormous impact on the world that you've had. And what I want to share with you now is how much you've meant to me as a chair, because you've always answered my calls. I don't know why, you're a busy guy. You helped me through a bunch of different things, decisions I had to make. Some were thorny, and you encouraged me to believe in the people that would make a difference. And your encouragement led me to venture out on a limb and to develop this collaboration with Jeff and his lab and led us to today. So thank you very much for all you've done for the Brigham.
Well, I'm going to talk about Jeff, but first I want to congratulate you, Jim, and just say I almost feel like when I look at this audience, I feel like I'm, or at least a significant part, I feel like I'm at a reunion. I see so many of my current and former students and colleagues, and I'm proud of all of you and what you built, and in this department, the people that you've hired. It's just been amazing, and amazing to see the impact. I mean, you should be incredibly proud. And I'm incredibly proud of Jeff. I mean, really, I should have gotten this chair years ago, but I mean, I realize it's also a question of funding and things like that, but he's really just done amazing in every way. You know, just to tell you my personal experiences with him. So Jeff wrote me probably close to 20 years ago, and I remember it was the heading of I think of the letter. He said, well, it was a postdoctoral candidate with big ideas. And actually, I didn't realize it at the time, but he was actually being modest, because he really has gigantic ideas. I mean, and I think those of you that know him really just see how out of the box and highly impactful his ideas are, and he doesn't stop there, he goes out and does them, and it's really been amazing for me to watch what he's done. You know, just even, I mean, he's published hundreds of papers, he has over 100 patents, and started, I think, something like, well, last time I counted was maybe 10 companies, I'm sure it's more than that now. But it's been amazing for me to see what he's done. And, you know, when I look at the people he's trained and the ideas, I mean, it's just kind of remarkable. Like, for example, you know, one thing he's done that I don't think anybody's done is look at nature in new ways. And so he, as I'll mention in a minute, he's come up with ideas for porcupines, for geckos. I mean, and really seeing what these animals or organisms do, you know, came up with ways of using them in medicine in ways I'm sure nobody ever else conceived of. And these things are already making an impact, like the thing he did with geckos. This was a paper we published in PNAS. You know, that's led to a company, Tisium, which is doing amazing. I mean, and already has gotten European approval for, you know, for new bioadhesives, and so it was called CE mark approval. And I think it's gonna lead to many things in the US that also are gonna change medicine. I mean, new types of sealants, for example, in cardiovascular disease and things like that. Jeff, as I'm sure, you know, so after he came to our lab, you know, he went, and I think Jim explained some of that. He got you know, he started at Toronto, came to our lab and did an amazing job, and then, you know, he was recruited by Harvard and you know, ultimately just rose up through the ranks, you know, became full professor and now chair professor. You know, and he's already been elected to one of the national academies, the National Academy of Inventors. It's really, really tremendous. And for all these things, he's totally deserving of this, not only being a full professor at Harvard, but a charitable professor at Harvard. With myself, you know, I was looking through, out of his hundreds of papers, we've already published 41 papers together, and they're in science and nature journals. One of those papers, actually, it's been cited almost 10,000 times, just one paper that he's written. I mean, it's pretty remarkable. Actually, if I look at some of those papers, I wrote them down, a few of them. I mean, the one that's in Nature Nanotechnology, it's been cited over 9,600 times, I think, is about, you know, really nanotechnology and cancer. And it was actually written in 2007. But, you know, the gecko one, you know, where he was the senior author on this, is like a whole new type of bioadhesive, which, as I mentioned, that was published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, and it's like I said, led to Tisium. It's really remarkable. He's also published, again, if I go through this, a paper, again in PNAS, called Microstructured Barbs on the North American Porcupine Quill, enable easy tissue penetration and difficult removal. So, I mean, and again, it's really amazing. I mean, to think of these things, you know, almost out of thin air, or for whatever Jeff reads and does, and all of them end up being used by different people, cited many times, and making you know, a big impact. There's just so many others. You know, new types of materials, new ways, as was mentioned, of affecting how hearing loss, new types of ways of creating batteries that you know, won't cause harm if some little child swallows them. And I could go on and on. It's just like I say, remarkable what he's done. And in addition to all of the great science he's done, he's actually also, a lot of scientists aren't always the nicest people. I sometimes say, especially at MIT and Harvard. But Jeff he's like really just down to earth, just a wonderful human being. When he was in our lab, he mentored high school students. He was just kind and as well as brilliant. And I think, and I think what we're seeing is just the tip of the iceberg. I mean, he's still pretty young. He's got a lot of years ahead of him, and a lot of people to train, a lot of great discoveries to continue doing. It was, Jim also mentioned his book that people can sign. I read it. I mean, it was really, I actually learned a lot about Jeff reading but it's really pretty amazing. I mean, to see all, and I remember he came to interview me, and asked, actually, I thought very penetrating questions about my own life, and some of which, would mirror his, and really, when you put the whole book together, it's kind of, amazing what you can learn, not only about him, but about everything, and about how to maybe live the most fulfilling way you can. So I really just want to congratulate Jeff. It's actually an honor for me to be here. I wouldn't miss this for anything. I'm just so proud of him, and I think you all should be so proud of him. One of the people he trained, he's actually trained many, is Nitin Joshi, who's now an assistant professor here. And I know he's going to speak next, and I've had the pleasure of publishing papers with him too. He's done amazing work, and so I wanted to introduce him, but before I just close, I just wanted again to congratulate you, Jeff, and thank you for all you've done for not only the Brigham and MIT and Harvard, but for the whole world. Thanks.
Chair position. I believe that we have talked a lot about Jeff's accomplishment as a scientist. I'm going to talk a little bit about his mentorship and the compassion and the empathy that he showed to his mentees and collaborators and colleagues. Jeff has always surprised me with the approach of problem solving, not just in science, but like in many other aspects in life in general. Beyond his creativity, what has truly stood out to me is his compassion and empathy, and how he sort of seamlessly integrates these qualities when he's thinking. He consistently finds the best in everyone, be it collaborators, friends, colleagues, and I cannot really overstate this. His positivity, he's a very, very positive person. I've not met anyone more positive than Jeff in my life. It's truly astonishing how he does that. They say that one person can change your life. To me, that's really Jeff. He brought me as a postdoctoral fellow in his lab in 2013 from India. And that move had a profound impact in my life and my career trajectory. It shaped not only my research, the way I was looking at the research, but also the philosophy of my life in general. When I first met you, Jeff, I don't know if you remember, but the first statement that you told me was, I don't want us to be someone who just works for publications. We need to create an impact in people's lives and impact the world in a meaningful way. And this philosophy has always resonated with me ever since. It's been 10 wonderful years since we began working together, and I have learned so much from Jeff in various areas of research, also entrepreneurship and problem solving. Jeff has taught me the value of questioning assumptions, the importance of rigorous scientific inquiry, and the necessity for communicating your ideas and your findings in a very relevant and clear manner. But most importantly, what he has shown me is how to exhibit compassion to the people you work with, because he always says, and his approach is that that's the most important thing in your life. I feel extremely fortunate to have been mentored by Jeff during my postdoc, and feel even luckier actually that I still get to work with him, and he still stands as the steadfast support for my faculty career. I pursue Indian classical vocal music. In music in general, more particularly in vocal music, a student sort of adopts the style of their mentor or the teacher. While that is completely fine in the beginning, over time the expectation is really that you develop sort of your own unique style, one that reflects the influence of your mentor, but also has a fresh perspective to it. So the underlying philosophy is that you should be the reflection of your mentor, not a replica. And Jeff truly believes in that. And this is something I have admired in him forever. He provides strong support to his mentees, but at the same time, let them fly on their own. Jeff, your title as a distinguished professor is a fitting acknowledgement of the profound impact that you have created in the field of biomedical engineering. But I really think that it's the reminder of the countless, of the impact you have created on the countless lives of your trainees, the careers that you have shaped, and the academic fraternity that has really flourished under your mentorship. On behalf of all those who have had the privilege of knowing you as a student, as a mentee, as collaborator, colleagues, I really wish you my deepest congratulations, Jeff, today. And thank you for your enduring inspiration forever. And most importantly, igniting our brains, our minds, and our life with lit. Thank you so much. I'd like to invite my friend and colleague, Dr. Yuhan Lee, who is an assistant professor in our department. Before the event actually started, Oren, who was also mentored by Jeff, just made a comment that Yuhan, Oren, and I grew up together, which actually is so true. Under Jeff's umbrella, of course. Thank you so much, everyone, and thank you for giving me this opportunity. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Yuhan Lee, and congratulations, Jeff, for the chair position. And there are already, many people have said a lot of great things about Jeff. I completely agree. And I saw my schedule, and then I was one of the last ones to speak. So my first plan was to prepare a song as a gift to Jeff. But unfortunately, my guitar was broken. I couldn't bring the song with me. But instead, at the end, I'm going to give you a poem as a present for you. I started working with Jeff when I was still in my 20s, and when I was finishing my PhD course, I had a chance to talk to Dr. Alan Hoffman, who is one of the pioneers of the field of biomaterials, and I asked him, I want to. Back then I was a little bit of, tired of being, writing papers out of paper after paper, and I really wanted to make a change, to the world. And I asked him, who should I talk to? And Dr. Alan Hoffman almost immediately told me, there is a guy called Jeff Karp, and you should talk to him. And I luckily, had a chance to talk to Jeff, and I got into the lab as a postdoc, and when I arrived at the lab was amazing. We had a lot of interesting group of people in the lab. Jeff created, and Jeff always believed in multidisciplinary approach where a lot of people, a lot of different backgrounds, and a lot of diversity, and people with a lot of different skill sets with in one place can create amazing things together. And I was one of them, and I was privileged to be one of them. And now I'm I'm a man with gray hairs right now, reflecting so many years I've been together with Jeff, and then I can definitely say that Dr. Alan Hoffman was definitely right, and I learned a lot from you. I've been, there are so many of your achievement I've seen, and there are so many things that I've learned from you, and it's been a really privilege for me to be in the front row seat to witness the magic of Jeff Karp. And here's to you. I titled this, Jeff Karp, the innovator, innovative biomedical engineer and inspiring mentor. So here's to you, Jeff. In halls of science where mind ignites, a beacon of brilliance shines so bright. Jeff Karp, the innovator, forging the way in the realm of medicine, he saves the day. Inspired by nature, he studies with care, finding answers where others wouldn't dare. From geckos and porcupines, he took his cue, creating a thesis that hold firm and true. A gel that guides healing where tissues tear, delivering hope through the art of repair. Microneedles that whisper with gentle flair, repairing the skin with meticulous care. He crafted new biomaterials with a creative flair, innovative solutions for patients everywhere. Bio-inspired hydrogels that stick and seal, making wounds whole with seamless appeal. A mentor and teacher with a generous heart, inspiring young minds to play their part. In the lab or the lecture hall, his spirit is bold, a true biomedical pioneer, his story told. So here's to Jeff Karp, a visionary bright, turning dreams into life, igniting the light. With nature as guide and science as art, may his brilliance continue to heal and impart. I would like to introduce the next speaker, Dr. Oren Levy, who is, I think, we're brothers, as Anita pointed out, brothers who grew up in the house of Jeff Karp. really appreciate your mentorship and allowing us to really freely explore the fields and proliferate from there. So thank you so much, and congratulations.
Wow, that's a tough act to follow. Guess I like to dance. So first of all, thank you, for inviting me here, and it's such a pleasure to give a few words about Jeff being this inaugural incumbent distinguished chair of anesthesiology, and obviously thank you, Dr. Anderson and Dr. Altman, for setting up that chair. I think our department definitely deserves it, and no one deserves it more than Jeff. So it's been a long time, that I've known Jeff. I also started as a postdoc in his lab. And you heard so much about the great inventions and the great scientific discoveries that he's made. But I don't think there's anyone that probably made more impact on my life than Jeff, and I don't even think he knows it in many levels, because I'll talk about the mentorship and everything in a minute, but I just looked up my phone and there was an email he sent me. I think it was August 2015. I was a postdoc in the lab, and it was a very kind of random, regular email like, Oren, I got invited to give a talk in a conference in San Diego. I can't make it that week. Would you mind going and filling up my space? And I was like, sure, let's do it. And the conference was, I think, in October or something. And that's actually the first time I met my wife. So this was all an accident, actually. And I think just for that you deserve a distinguished chair in heaven. So that was definitely amazing, and it's amazing. A meeting said that one person can change your life, and I think that's one email can change your life forever. So I'm very grateful for that. But everyone, and we had meeting, and Johan speaking before me, truly brothers growing up in the Karp family lab. And Jeff is just, I can talk about all the amazing papers and all the discoveries and the companies and all of this. You heard a lot about it, and I can speak for that for an hour, but I'll give one little example of how much of an amazing mentor Jeff is. Early in my postdoc, we had a collaboration with Sanofi. And as a part of that was really well funded, and it went really well. And at some point we had to go to Paris to meet with them for a review discussion or whatever. And I was still, a young postdoc. To me it was a huge deal. In my mind it was the most important meeting in my life. And we had to present, we worked on that presentation, super long, 2 hours straight of a presentation. And Jeff and I worked on that for maybe 2 weeks, and Jeff was really, super helpful, crafting the story and everything. And I was prepared, but it was a huge deal for me. And obviously I was a little stressed, and it was a big deal. So we landed in Paris, it was early afternoon, and I was dead tired, jet lag to levels that really cannot be described. So I was I'm literally gonna pass out, and the meeting is in the morning, and we do that. But we said we're gonna go over the slide deck, in the evening. So I was sure, we do that, probably Jeff is gonna give a lot of comments, I'm gonna have to fix it, and then I can maybe go to sleep. So we reached with Jeff, I told him, Jeff, I'm tired and I'm a little stressed. He's you know what, you're jet lagged, the best thing is you need to walk. Let's walk. So I'm I don't know what this guy wants. Finding myself strolling the streets of Paris. And it's I started feeling a little better, a little bit less jet lagged, but still the meeting was in my head, and almost the transcript of what I'm gonna say in the meeting keeps running in my head. And I noticed Jeff, and he's completely unbothered by the meeting. An island of serenity and peacefulness. And he keeps talking to me about everything except from the meeting. How's your life and your nutrition and your lifestyle and everything. It had nothing to do with science. And at the beginning, I was thinking to myself, okay, there's a huge meeting tomorrow, who cares about the lifestyle and everything. But as time went by, I realized that it actually got me completely relaxed, completely focused. And the one thing I remember for sure is that we reached that, it was a little market or whatever, it was a 1 hour stroll. It wasn't that long, but it really kind of in my memory very strong. And they were selling oranges. And Jeff was orange, you want an orange? And he starts picking oranges. And I'm thinking, this guy's crazy. There's really the most important meeting of my career tomorrow. This guy's picking oranges. But he got me so, by the end of that evening, I was so relaxed, not jet lagged at all, by the way, already. I felt fresh and just so relaxed. And then, at the end of the evening, I was like, Jeff, okay, let's go over the slides. We sat in the lobby for maybe 15 minutes, and he just gave me so much confidence and so many compliments and so much support, and he really kind of invigorated me and gave me exactly the support I needed to nail that meeting. And we did a meeting, and not only it went well, we got an extension, we got more funding to do that project for another trip. It was really a great success. We published that patent, it was fantastic. But to me, that little example just shows you how much of an amazing mentor he is. Because some people in that situation would just say, let's drill those slides, let's go over it again and again and repeat, and he would just stress and freak out like everyone. But for me, I think he identified that, first of all, we were prepared, and it was just a matter of coming in the right mindset. And that peaceful, serene attitude. It was so tranquil. To me, it was just like an inspiration, because at some point I realized, okay, this guy is not stressed. It's his lab. You know, I probably shouldn't be stressed too. And it just put me in the right zone. And I think that's the type of mentor Jeff is. He just knows what everyone needs and provides the most supportive environment for postdocs. And it's really personalized. Some people, you know, need more of a push. Some people just need the freedom to do their thing. And he always treated me like that. He always gave me the freedom to do my thing. And was just always super supportive. And I cannot be more grateful, you know, than I am for this. Like, you made a huge impact on my career. I try to create the same environment now that I have my own lab with my own students. Just let people be supported as much as possible, give the guidance, the mentorship, and just let people be. So, super grateful for that. I really want to thank you for everything you've done for my career. And again, really looking forward for many more years of working together, and really congratulating you for this phenomenal accomplishment. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Bob, Nitin, Yuhan, and Oren for these personal stories. They really help us understand how Jeff has been so successful. It's now my distinct pleasure to introduce our newest distinguished professor, Dr. Jeff Katz.
New name.
Wow. You know, for a while I've been working on ego management, and I think after today I'm going to need to really step this up. Wow. Thank you so much, everybody. I just feel so blessed to have such incredible colleagues, and you know, I've always just had in my mind, I don't know, like just to minimize hierarchy wherever possible, and to create a lateral environment, and I really don't see kind of myself at the top. I really see that I'm just one of the team members, and I feel like I've just learned so much from everybody who's stepped foot in the lab, and all my collaborators and mentors. And I started the lab in July of 2007, coming out of Bob's lab, and boy, I was so fired up. I was ready to go, and some pretty interesting things actually happened. In fact, Bob, I don't know if you remember, but when I applied to your lab, we go back to that time, and I wrote that email, postdoc candidate with a big idea. Your first answer was no. Right? And actually, Bob in the email said the reason is because there's no funding. And I'd been working on developing questions my whole life, because it was just critical for me for learning. And I wrote back to Bob actually 2 critical questions that actually changed my life. The first question was, if I got my own funding, would you accept me in your lab? And Bob wrote back in like a nanosecond, yes. The second question was even more important than the first one. I responded to Bob with, would you put that in writing? And Bob said, sure, another nanosecond later. And I printed out his letter for this NSERC postdoctoral fellowship that I was applying to from the Canadian government. No place to put a letter of support, but I just felt, if I put, if you give Jeff this fellowship, he'll have a ticket into Bob Langer's lab, might help. And so I just tacked it on. It was in the days when you printed out applications, and 4 or 5 painful months later, I got the result that I got the fellowship. Then came the third question, which was, Bob, will you still take me in your lab? Is this? And he did, and it changed my life in so many ways. But I mean, coming out of my postdoc and starting the lab, was extraordinarily difficult. It was really, really a big challenge. The first 2.5 years, I wrote about 100 grants, and I just, for some reason, I couldn't take the advice that everybody was giving me, which was to just try to do something incremental beyond what I had worked on so that I'd have a chance of actually securing grants. Being in Bob's lab, just everybody is just trained to think huge, and that's all I wanted to do was to try to start completely new projects and work on things I hadn't worked on before that I thought could really change the world, basically led to almost 100 grant rejections in the first 2.5 years. In fact, it was at one point I came home and Jessica said to me, because I was literally getting a grant rejection sometimes, like a couple times a week, she said, "Are you sure this is the right career for you?" And I think that kind of fueled me even more. At the 2.5 year mark, something amazing happened, which was, well, actually, even before that, what happened was that I started to, I had conversations with Bob and others, and I started to shift from really looking at the rejections as a negative thing and looking at them as a positive thing, because I got a lot of feedback. And essentially, I was being schooled in how to write successful grants. With each failure, it became a learning opportunity, and my grant writing improved. And at the 2.5 year mark, I secured 3 major grants, and those grants actually led to bringing in some of the amazing people who you just heard from. In fact, I think that funding led to the hiring of all 3, and things really took off. But the struggle still remained, because I was just, I have ADHD, I have interests all over the place, and somebody, I won't say who, but somebody pretty high up said to me at one point, they said, "Jeff, you're all over the place, and no one's going to understand what you're doing, and you need to focus. You really need to pick a lane and focus on it." And I took the advice seriously. I thought about it, I contemplated it, and I just thought, I tried it on, and it just didn't work. I just realized it wasn't me. And so I just realized in that, that I thrive by just working in so many different areas and being able to just lead with curiosity, which I think is really one of the most powerful ways that we can lead our lives. And then at one point, actually, we were filing patents, and they called me into the patent office early on, and they said, "Jeff, we haven't licensed any of your patents yet." And they said, "We can't continue to support, additional patents until you show that you can license them." And I was like, "Just wait, it's gonna happen." And sure enough, that happened, a year or two later. And so, I just feel like, and I think this was all possible, like being able to kind of continue moving forward and taking those steps, because of the incredible people that I have had the privilege of working with, and throughout all ranks of the Brigham and Women's Hospital, I've just felt incredible support, and it's just been really, really just I feel blessed just to work with so many amazing people. And so, yeah, I could tell you so many stories of like the time that the first project in my lab was, we were so excited about it. We developed a way to take stem cells out of the body and modify the surface of the cells to be able to infuse them and target them to different sites in the body. We actually had data showing that we could do this. And I was so fired up, and I went to Newbar at Flagship Ventures, And I was so certain that this was gonna be a company and just, you know, gangbusters. It was just gonna be, patients were gonna be saved. And, you know, if you could target stem cells to the bone, you could treat osteoporosis, or to the heart myocardial infarction, or to the brain neurological disorders. And so anyhow, you know, the night before I was, you know, couldn't sleep, and I get to the meeting with Nubar, and I present. I'm nervous, but I'm excited. I'm pretty sure that, you know, it's gonna be a company. And he leans across the table, and he goes, "Jeff, this is really exciting, but I'm gonna take a pass." And I was like, what? I couldn't believe it. But that actually, again, became this unbelievable learning opportunity that transformed every single project in the lab. It was where this concept of radical simplicity was born, the art and discipline of minimizing complexity at all levels. Because what Nubar, the lesson that he taught me, was that what the projects that I started with in the lab were just too complicated. There were too many steps involved in developing the technologies. They were great academic projects, but we hadn't thought of what happens next in terms of whether something could be manufactured. And so I really needed to think about that. And I spent 10 years interacting with people in the community here, patent lawyers, corporate lawyers, reimbursement, regulatory experts, people in biotech, medtech, consumer tech, and literally going for lunch with people every 2 or 3 weeks and developing relationships. And that led to the formation of this informal advisory board for the lab, so that I could interact, I could basically reach out to people and say, hey, could this be manufactured? Do you think this could be patented? If this goes to a clinical trial, what would be the comparator? Because we want to include that as early as possible in our experiments to make sure that what we're doing is important. So anyhow, that's just a few stories in and around the beginnings of the lab. I feel I'm slightly overwhelmed here. I prepared a speech because I was like, you know what, I gotta prepare this thing, and I worked really hard on it, and then I was like, nah, this isn't right. I just need to, and I feel that's part of the process. Always part of the process. So I just want to thank, there's so many people in this room that I want to thank for support and for wisdom and for just so much. I mean, Bob, and I just learned so much from you, and I just felt so empowered by you, and you've just really used so much energy that I feel everything is about energy transfer, from the sun to photosynthesis, and then into all of us and in between us constantly, and it's all about energy transfer, and I seek energy, I just feel it. And so the people that I work with, I just derive such incredible energy from. And Jim, just thank you for making this work, and for welcoming the team into the department, and just showing such support and being like the wind under our wings. I mean, it's just been phenomenal, and working with you has just been such a blessing. I mean, I just feel we're so aligned, and just in terms of just caring about the right things, and just wanting to move forward and maximize impact. And Jessica, none of this would have been possible without you. Just really the rock of the family, and just your I think my mental sanity is I would have gone insane if it wasn't for you, and just holding things together. And it wasn't always easy. And my mom, I struggled with learning differences and ADHD, and my mom was a true warrior. When I was younger, she went up into the education system. Nobody no one wanted to identify me as, and look into that. And my mom went up against the school board alone, and got me identified, and my grades went from C's and D's to A's. Some struggles continued and things, but it was so monumental in my life, and she was the person who, and I feel like kids really deserve to have someone who tells them that they have superhero powers, because when all my teachers were telling me I was a lost cause and couldn't do it, my mom was telling me, don't believe the labels, you have superpowers. And I think I started to believe it at some point, and even though, I mean, it kind of led me to trying to tap into what was within, and Josh and Jordan, wow, just I've learned so much from you. You have no idea how much I've learned from you, I don't think. I mean, I just, about life and just the daily reflections that I have just based on, things that you say or do has just been really, just been really profound for me. And yeah, I mean, I could just go on, and I know we're like, yeah, I just, all the trainees and collaborators and Nitin and Oren and Yuhan and just everybody, I'm just so thankful to just work with such incredible people, and this chair position for me, it's really about the future. It's really about using the funds that are part of this to really continue training the future leaders of tomorrow, and really being as intentional as we possibly can be, making deliberate decisions and just trying to do a little bit better every day, and really stepping back and reframing as much as we can to make sure that we're on the right track. So thank you so much, everybody, for coming out today, and it's just such a pleasure to be here with you, and yeah, I just feel really blessed. Thank you.
Congratulations again, Jeff, and now it's time for the official unveiling of the chair. In case you didn't know, this is a distinguished chair, but there's actually a chair. That you can join me at the chair. And now I have to actually read a proclamation, otherwise you're distinguished chair. It's sort of like the Wizard of Oz in that way. We hereby dedicate this distinguished chair in anesthesiology to Dr. Jeffrey Karp on the 8th day of May in the year 2024. This chair will serve as a tribute to Dr. Karp and his dedication to transforming care for people around the world. If you could take your side, and you go. There it is. Have a seat, And with that, I just want to thank everybody for being here tonight, to congratulate Jeff for all his accomplishments, and looking forward to many, many more years of great discoveries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Your photo of everyone who spoke. Well, yes. Well, yeah.
Do you want us to
Start
kneel
with
or?
his mentor.
Yes.
How do you want me to?
Sit on my lap. You can
What's
beside
that?
him. Stand beside him. Put your kind of just
Well,
rest
here,
your
right,
eyes.
right.
Oh, you can do that.
There we go. I have one like
And then
this
just
with
lean
my
over
back.
just a little bit, and then very nice. Fabulous. Yes.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Jeff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now we're gonna do a picture. I mean, I'll
Okay,
just
yeah,
stand
yeah,
there.
that's good. Finally.
I come stand behind the chair though.
Yeah, yeah.
And then, yeah, you're just right behind it.
Okay.
And we'll just rest your perfect.
Okay.
Actually, I've never always got their name tags.
Yeah.
I'll collect them. So you can come back.
Okay.
Name tags over
Okay.
there.
Okay.
Yeah, I think, or come over on the other side.
Oh, where's- let me-
We'll do that.
I've got them all in there. Reduce the size. Yeah, they're all there.
everyone looking at me right here? The smile. Very nice. And those smiles right here. Should have just a little tiny. Good, thank you. And then right here. And when you look, everyone's got eyes open, yes. Thank you so much. Thank
All right, thank you. All right, we're gonna get everyone behind the chair now.
Everybody sit.
Seriously, let's do it. What's that?
Have you do family?
Do you mind taking
Yeah.
Oh, sure, of course.
Yeah.
You get your family.
Yeah, for sure.
It is, isn't
Can I
it?
get one?
Yeah, of course, of course, of course. Looking right here. Thank you. Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah?
Yeah.